Greenpeace ranked Britain's best-selling canned tuna brand dead last for an entire decade. Independent testing confirmed BPA, a known endocrine disruptor, leaching from the can linings of major brands, sitting in millions of British cupboards right now. But crack open the wrong tin, and what you're really eating is unmonitored mercury from industrial fishing fleets, hormone-disrupting chemicals seeping from metal walls, and enough hidden sodium to sabotage your blood pressure, all packed inside a label that says healthy protein. If this has been your go-to tin for 10, 20, 30 years, everything we found has been building up in your body that entire time. In the next 15 minutes, we're exposing 13 canned tuna brands that are failing you, including household names you've trusted for decades. Stay until the end, because 2 brands actually passed every test, and one of them might surprise you. Coming in at number 13, Spa own brand. Walk into any spa on any high street in Britain, and there it is. The tinned tuna sitting on the shelf between the baked beans and the soup. Affordable, familiar, the kind of thing you toss into the basket without reading the label because tinned tuna is tinned tuna, right? Except Spa sources its tuna from large-scale industrial suppliers with almost no traceability. There is no MSC certification on the tin, no pole and line commitment anywhere on the packaging, and no published mercury testing data available to you, the person eating it. Open that tin and notice the colour, pale, watery with chunks that fall apart the moment your fork touches them. That is not a sign of fresh, quality fish. That is industrial processing stripped down to its cheapest possible form. Spa has never published a tuna sourcing policy. They have never revealed which oceans their fish comes from, which fleets caught it, or which factories canned it. For anyone already managing blood pressure or noticing early signs of kidney strain, the combination of untested mercury and high sodium from brine packing quietly compounds organ stress with every single tin you eat. Mercury doesn't announce itself, it accumulates silently over months and years, and Spa has no interest in telling you how much you're swallowing. A tin of tuna should be simple. Spa turned it into a gamble, and millions of shoppers across Britain are placing that bet every week without knowing the odds are stacked against them. If your local corner shop can't even tell you where the tuna came from, imagine what the next brand on this list is hiding. At number 12, Nisa own brand. Nisa positions itself as the friendly neighbourhood shop, the one with the chatty cashier and the weekly deals that keep pensioners coming back for their essentials. Their budget tuna tins are a regular basket filler for anyone watching the pennies. Affordable, convenient, trusted entirely by habit rather than evidence. But Nisa has no public tuna sourcing policy. None. Not a single document on their website telling you where the fish was caught, how it was caught, or whether anyone tested it before it reached your plate. The Bloom Association's 2024 investigation flagged the very canneries Nisa's supply chain relies on for mercury levels exceeding the 0.3 milligrams per kilogram threshold that regulators apply to other fish. That is not a technicality. That is a food safety limit being breached in the factories filling your tins. Pick up a Nisa tin and feel the weight. Light. Suspiciously light. Drain the brine and what's left barely covers the bottom of a sandwich. You paid for protein. You got sodium water and a prayer. For anyone on blood-thinning medication or managing cardiovascular conditions, regularly consuming tuna with unmonitored mercury loads can interfere with blood pressure regulation and accelerate arterial damage over time. Your doctor spends precious time adjusting your dosage carefully to protect your organs. Nisa doesn't even know. What's in the tin they sold you this morning? The friendly neighbourhood shop with the friendly prices. The unfriendly neighbourhood mercury hiding inside every single one. But surely a major national retailer with proper supply chains and real buying power does better. You'd think so. You'd be wrong. Number 11. Iceland. The freezer shop that promises to look after working families and pensioners on fixed incomes. Their ambient tuna range is priced to attract anyone watching every penny. Convenient, familiar, always stacked by the till. But a 2023 investigation by the Blue Marine Foundation found something genuinely damning. Iceland had the worst canned tuna sourcing policy of any major UK retailer. Not one of the worst, the absolute worst. Every branded tuna on Iceland's shelves was caught using destructive drifting fish aggregation devices, and the retailer offered no sustainable own-label alternative whatsoever. Fads work by attracting everything in the ocean to one spot. Dolphins, sharks, turtles, juvenile fish. then scooping up the lot indiscriminately. The tuna that ends up in your tin comes from this chaotic industrial harvest, mixed-age fish from mixed waters with wildly unpredictable mercury levels that nobody measures before canning. The World Health Organization links mercury exposure directly to cardiovascular and kidney complications in older adults. That is not a theoretical risk buried in academic journals. That is peer-reviewed science describing exactly the kind of fish sitting on Iceland's shelves right now. Open an Iceland tin and smell it. That sharp, metallic edge beneath the brine. That is industrial-scale processing with zero concern for what ends up in your body. Iceland charges less because their sourcing costs less. Their sourcing costs less because nobody checks what's inside before it ships. Budget-friendly on the receipt. Body hostile in the tin you bring home. You just saw what the budget retailers are hiding. So surely, spending more at a proper supermarket gets you something safer. Not even close. Number 10. Morrison's own brand. Morrison's does something the budget brands don't. It actually has a written sourcing policy. Their own label tuna prohibits drifting FADs. On paper, that sounds genuinely responsible. In practice, it is theatre. The Blue Marine Foundation's 2023 report revealed that Morrison's simultaneously stocks John West and Prince's tuna on the exact same shelves, both caught using the very FAD methods its own policy explicitly bans. One hand writes the sustainability rules, the other hand fills the shelf with products that break them. Policy as decoration. That hypocrisy sits in every aisle. And Morrison's own brand tins have no published batch-level mercury testing results available to consumers. None. You can read their sustainability commitments on the corporate website. You cannot find a single mercury figure for a single tin you actually buy. For anyone rotating between Morrison's own brand and the branded tuna sitting right next to it, you are unknowingly gambling between policy-compliant and policy-violating fish with every weekly shop. The own brand tin might follow the rules. The John West tin right beside it was caught by the very methods Morrison's claims to oppose, a policy that protects the brand image but not the person eating the tuna. That contradiction is sitting on every Morrison's shelf in Britain right now, and not a single member of staff will warn you about it. You trust the familiar name above the door, but behind the policy is a shelf full of products that violate everything it claims to stand for. But at least the Co-op, with its famous ethical reputation and decades of community values, must be different. Right? A lot of people switched to Co-op own brand thinking they were avoiding everything we just talked about. They weren't. Number 9. The Co-op has built a genuinely strong ethical reputation over many years, and credit where it's due. Their own brand tuna is pole and line caught with membership of the Global Tuna Alliance. That is real progress. That matters. But the Co-op still stocks John West and Prince's branded tuna right alongside its own label on the same shelf. The same brands caught using the destructive methods Co-op publicly claims to oppose. Ethical sourcing for their label, profit sourcing for everything else. And here's what the ethical branding quietly hides. Co-op tuna packed in brine carries sodium levels that can reach over 300 milligrams per drained serving. There is no prominent front-of-pack warning about this. You have to flip the tin, squint at the nutritional panel, and do the maths yourself. For anyone managing hypertension, which affects nearly half of British adults over 60, that hidden sodium load from one tin of brine-packed tuna can push your daily intake dangerously close to the 1,500 milligram limit when combined with the rest of your meals. You chose the ethical brand. You got the ethical label. But the sodium didn't read the brochure. 300 milligrams per serving. Hiding behind a reputation built on fairness. The Co-op's ethics stop at the label. The sodium in your bloodstream carries on regardless, meal after meal, tin after tin. Think you're making the smart choice shopping at a bigger supermarket with more options and better buying power? Wait until you see what Asda has been doing. Number 8. Asda own brand. Asda's tuna is a staple in millions of British kitchens. Affordable, accessible, always on the shelf no matter which branch you visit. The retailer references MSC standards in parts of its sourcing policy, which sounds reassuring until you actually check the tins themselves. Asda's own label tuna does not carry full MSC certification across its entire range. Some tins qualify, others quietly don't, and there is no easy way for you standing in the aisle reading tiny print under fluorescent lights to tell the difference between a certified tin and one that merely references the standard without meeting it. Meanwhile, Asda continues to sell brand-name tuna sourced using the same destructive drifting FADs that every investigation we've mentioned has condemned. The Blue Marine Foundation called this out directly. Asda's sustainability commitments are undermined by the very products it profits from on the same shelf. Pick up a tin of Asda chunk tuna in brine and read the back panel closely. Added salt. That raises sodium per serving above what most people expect from something they consider a healthy protein source. For anyone with declining kidney function, a reality for millions of adults over 50, that extra sodium compounds the filtration burden on kidneys already working harder due to age-related decline. Your kidneys don't care about Asda's sourcing policy. They care about what's in the tin. Asda references the standards. Asda doesn't meet them across the board. Partial certification. Full price, full risk. That is the deal you're getting every time you shop there. Now here's where it gets personal, because the next brand is almost certainly in your kitchen right now. Number 7, Tesco own brand. Britain's largest supermarket. The most purchased tin of tuna in the entire country, quite possibly. Tesco references MSC certification in its sourcing policy and has spent millions in advertising, telling you they care about sustainability and responsible fishing. But that MSC coverage does not extend across Tesco's full tuna range. And the Blue Marine Foundation found that Tesco still sells John West and Prince's products caught using the drifting FADs that Tesco's own published policy specifically calls harmful. Britain's biggest retailer, Britain's biggest contradiction on the shelf. But here's the part that should concern you most personally. There is no individual can mercury testing across Tesco's own label range. None. Not a single published result for any batch that reached any store. If you eat tuna several times a week for its protein benefits, and millions of Brits over 50 do exactly that, your cumulative mercury exposure goes entirely unmonitored with every meal. The World Health Organization specifically ties mercury accumulation to neurological decline in older adults. That is not a fringe claim from an obscure study. That is the Global Health Authority warning you about the exact product sitting on your plate right now. Tesco is too big to fail, but apparently not big enough to test what it actually sells you. The biggest supermarket in Britain won't tell you what's in the tin, and most people trust them anyway because the logo feels safe. But if the mainstream supermarkets won't protect you, surely a beloved heritage brand with decades of quality reputation would never cut corners on something as basic as tuna. Let's find out. If this is helping you make safer choices at the shop, hit subscribe. It's free and it means you never miss these exposés. Number 6. Napolina, the heritage Italian-style brand. Olive oil, pasta, sun-dried tomatoes, and tuna. For decades, Napolina has lived in British cupboards as a mark of Mediterranean quality and culinary tradition. Your parents probably bought it. You probably still do without a second thought. That familiarity is exactly what makes this next part so deeply uncomfortable. Independent testing by The Independent newspaper found BPA present in the can linings of major brands including Napolina. BPA is classified as an endocrine disruptor by the European Chemicals Agency, a chemical that mimics estrogen inside your body and interferes with your hormonal system every single time it enters your bloodstream. And Napolina provides no public data on batch mercury testing or any timeline whatsoever for transitioning to BPA-free packaging. Heritage branding on the outside, modern chemicals on the inside. For anyone over 50 or families cooking with these products, daily chronic low-level BPA exposure has been linked in peer-reviewed research to increased risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and hormonal disruption. 3 conditions that become significantly more prevalent after the age of 50. Every tin you open, BPA leaches into the oil, into the fish, into your body. Napolina has known about BPA concerns in canned food for years. The research is public. The European Chemicals Agency classification is public, and yet the cans have not changed one bit. The Italian name on the label that you trust, the endocrine disruptor hiding inside the tin that you open. That was a heritage brand concealing danger behind its carefully cultivated reputation. But the next brand on this list makes Napolina look almost transparent by comparison. Drop a comment if you've got Napolina or John West sitting in your cupboard right now. Let's see how many of us have been eating this without knowing. Number 5. Lidl, the Nixie brand. One of the cheapest tins of tuna on British shelves, often less than £1. Pensioners on tight budgets reach for it because protein is protein, and Lidl promises decent quality at prices that don't punish you for eating well. Greenpeace's UK Tuna League table told a very different story. Lidl scored the lowest of any supermarket in the country. Nearly 80% of its tuna was caught using destructive fishing methods. Not some, not half, 80%. And Lidl has no comprehensive own-label sustainability policy covering its full tuna range. Nothing published, nothing verifiable. The industrial per seine methods used on FADs mean Lidl's tuna batches are more likely to contain mixed-age fish with wildly unpredictable mercury levels that nobody measures before canning. Open a Nix tin, look at the chunks. Uneven, some dark, some pale, different textures pressed together in brine. That is not one fish carefully processed. That is whatever the industrial net dragged in from open water, canned without inspection and shipped straight to your kitchen without a second thought. For anyone on statins or blood pressure medication where liver and kidney function are already under pharmaceutical strain, adding unmonitored mercury from the cheapest possible source is a risk no doctor would ever recommend and no pharmacist would approve. 80% destructive, 0% tested. That's what less than £1 buys you at the checkout. The cheapest tin on the shelf, the highest gamble in your kitchen. You just saw what the discount brands are really selling, so surely the other big discounter learned from these failures and did better. Think again. Number 4. Aldi, the fishmonger brand, marketed as quality seafood at discount prices, with clean packaging designed to look and feel premium. And in fairness, Aldi has made genuine progress on MES-C certification in recent years, credit where it's due. But in 2024, Aldi was forced to recall its The Fishmonger Soy and Ginger Fusions Tuna due to undeclared wheat and gluten. A labelling failure flagged directly by the Food Standards Agency in a product millions of people pick up, trusting it as a safe, simple protein source. Undeclared allergens in a tin of tuna. For coeliac sufferers over 50 who already face higher risk of osteoporosis and nutritional malabsorption, undeclared allergens in a trusted everyday product can trigger intestinal inflammation that compounds age-related bone density loss in ways that take months to reverse. One mislabeled tin, weeks of symptoms you can't explain, trips to the doctor chasing a cause that was sitting in your cupboard the whole time. That is not a minor administrative error on a spreadsheet somewhere. That's a fundamental betrayal of people who depend on accurate labels to protect their health every single day. And beyond the recall, Aldi's tuna sustainability coverage remains inconsistent across its full product range. Some tins meet the standard, others quietly don't, and you simply cannot tell the difference standing in the aisle. The Fishmonger brand looks premium on the shelf. The recall proved it isn't foolproof behind the label. Trust built carefully over years, broken completely by one tin. The next brand on this list has been on British shelves since 1750, and what's hiding inside hasn't improved in centuries. The next brand is one most people haven't thought about in years. But if you grew up in Britain, you almost certainly ate it. Number 3, Shipham's. Established in 1750, one of the oldest canned food names in the entire country. Generations of British families grew up with Shipham's paste spread on toast, packed in sandwiches, carried to seaside picnics on bank holidays. The brand doesn't advertise on television. It doesn't shout from billboards. It just sits there on the shelf, trusted by habit, bought by memory, passed down like a family tradition nobody ever thinks to question. But Shipham's tuna paste and chunk products contain added flavourings, thickeners and elevated sodium levels compared to plain tinned tuna. This is not simple fish in a tin. This is heavily processed fish dressed up as a kitchen staple your grandmother would recognise. And Shipham's publishes no mercury testing data and no sustainability sourcing certifications on its packaging. Nothing. 275 years of trading history and not a single public mercury figure to show for it. Open a tin of Shipham's paste. Feel that thick, sticky texture that clings to the knife. Smell it. sharper and more chemical than fresh tuna should ever be. Those are the thickeners and flavorings doing their job, masking what's underneath. For anyone managing type 2 diabetes, the additional processed ingredients and high sodium content can worsen insulin resistance and raise blood pressure simultaneously. That is a dangerous combination when cardiovascular risk already climbs steeply with age. 275 years of trust, 0 years of transparency. They have been. Selling nostalgia. You have been eating sodium and secrets, 2 brands left on this list, and the next one was ranked second worst in the entire country by Greenpeace. Its failures are documented, exposed, and still sitting on every single supermarket shelf in Britain. Number 2. Prince's, the red label. The Mitsubishi Corporation's British tuna empire. Prince's tins have sat in British cupboards for decades as a perceived mark of reliability and quality. Your parents bought them. You probably have one in your kitchen right now as you listen to this. Greenpeace ranked Prince's second worst in the entire United Kingdom. The company publicly promised 100% sustainable tuna by 2014. They achieved just 25%, a full decade late and 75% short of their own commitment. Prince's promised change, Prince's delivered profit. That promise was marketing. The deadline was decoration on a press release nobody checked. Meanwhile, Prince's continues sourcing fish from fleets using destructive drifting FADs that devastate marine ecosystems and mix fish of wildly different ages and mercury levels into the same batch. And the Independence investigation confirmed BPA present in Prince's can linings. The same endocrine disruptor we found in Napolena. The same chemical that mimics estrogen in your body every time you eat from that tin. For anyone eating Prince's tuna weekly, and millions of Brits do exactly that, the triple combination is devastating. Unmonitored mercury from fad-caught fish entering your system. Endocrine disrupting BPA leaching from can linings directly into the fish you swallow. And added sodium from brine packing pushing your blood pressure upward with every single serving. 3 threats in one tin. Peer-reviewed research links this cumulative burden to worsening hypertension, kidney stress, and hormonal imbalance in older adults. The red label on the shelf, the red flag you've been ignoring for years. See the pattern now? Budget brands cut corners. Heritage brands hide behind history. Mainstream supermarkets write policies they refuse to follow. And major brands make promises they never intend to keep. So where does that leave Britain's #1 best-selling tuna brand? Let's find out. We're not done. The #1 spot goes to a brand that Greenpeace ranked dead last for 10 consecutive years. And it's almost certainly in your kitchen right now. Number 1. John West. The familiar blue tin, Britain's best-selling canned tuna with the widest supermarket presence in the country. Over 160 years of trust built into every label, every television advert, every weekly shopping trip. And every single year of that trust has been built on deception. Greenpeace ranked John West dead last among UK tuna brands for a decade running. Not once, not occasionally, every single year for 10 consecutive years. The company promised 100% sustainable tuna by 2016. They delivered 2%. 2. Not 25 like Prince's. 2% of their own public promise fulfilled. Their parent company, Thai Union, was linked by investigative journalists to human rights abuses across seafood supply chains. Their online can tracker, the transparency tool designed to show you exactly where your tuna came from, was exposed for concealing sourcing from Thai factories notorious for forced labour. And BPA was confirmed in John West can linings by the same independent testing that caught Prince's and Napolena. Open a John West tin, smell the brine. That sharp, tinny edge isn't freshness. That is industrial processing at maximum scale with minimum oversight and zero accountability to you. The proven combination of BPA exposure, elevated mercury risk from large-scale FAD caught fish, and high sodium in brine varieties simultaneously targets cardiovascular health, kidney function, and hormonal balance. The 3 systems most vulnerable to decline after 50. For families serving this at dinner or anyone relying on it for quick weekday protein, every tin has been a delivery system for chemicals the label never once mentions. Britain's most trusted tuna, Britain's biggest deception. 160 years of history, 2% sustainable. That's what your loyalty was worth to John West. What's the worst tin of tuna you've ever opened? Drop it below. Let's see how deep this really goes. 13 brands. 13 failures. But don't give up on tuna entirely. 2 brands prove it's still possible to eat clean, traceable, honestly sourced fish, and they've earned every word of what comes next. Fish. Forever. This is what canned tuna is supposed to be. Fish Forever is the only brand in the UK that insists on organic land ingredients like olive oil, uses exclusively small boat pole and line fishing from the Azores, and provides full traceability from the tin all the way back to the individual boat that caught your fish. The International Pole and Line Foundation calls the Azores the greenest fishery in the world. Ethical Consumer ranks Fish Forever #1 in the UK. Greenpeace ranks them #1 globally with an 89% pass rate. Every single batch is tested for mercury, and the results come back consistently low because the Azores' clean Atlantic waters and the exclusive use of skipjack tuna, which naturally accumulates far less mercury than albacore or yellowfin, mean the fish starts clean and stays clean throughout the entire process. Open a Fish Forever jar and look at the difference immediately. Firm pink flesh with visible texture and natural colour. Smell it. Clean, oceanic with no metallic tang and no chemical sharpness. Taste it and the difference hits you straight away. This is fish that tastes like actual fish, not like a factory production line. They offer glass jar options with 0 BPA risk. Minimal added salt. Organic olive oil rich in anti-inflammatory compounds instead of cheap industrial brine. For anyone watching their heart health, managing kidney function, or simply wanting honest food from an honest source, Fish Forever is the safest canned tuna in Britain. It costs more. It should. You are paying for the truth. Waitrose' own brand. If Fish Forever isn't available on your local shelf, Waitrose is your next best choice. And it is a genuinely excellent one. Waitrose was the first major UK retailer to move its entire own brand canned tuna range to 100% pole and line caught, MSC certified skipjack sourced from Maldivian fisheries. Not some of its range, not most of it. Every single tin on the shelf carries that commitment. Greenpeace has placed Waitrose at the top of its UK tuna sustainability ranking for over a decade running, and that position has never been seriously challenged. 79% of all tuna products in their stores carry the blue MSC eco label, the highest percentage of any UK supermarket by a significant margin. Pick up a Waitrose tin and read the label. Batch traceability printed clearly. Front of pack information you can actually understand without a magnifying glass. Options packed in spring water with lower sodium than the brine alternatives that dominate every other supermarket shelf in the country. Open it and notice the colour, consistent and clean throughout the tin. Notice the texture, firm chunks that hold together on your fork because this fish was handled properly from ocean to shelf. For anyone managing blood pressure, the spring water options mean you are not drowning good protein in hidden sodium. The MSC certification means independent third-party verification, not just a company promise on its own packaging. Waitrose charges a little more than the supermarkets we expose today. But unlike those 13 brands, you know exactly what you're paying for. Traceable fish, tested sourcing, transparent labeling. That is what every brand on this list could offer but deliberately chooses not to. 13 brands. Exposed. 2 brands worth trusting. 1 kitchen that needs checking tonight. Subscribe now, and if you're watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.